Hello and welcome back to step 4 and our final part of the Project Management for Beginners course, or Project Management 101. If you are just joining us now for the first time, welcome. We're so happy to have you here and so excited that you can be here for this entirely free course on the fundamentals of project management. I would really encourage you to jump back to parts 1, 2, and 3 before joining us here in step 4. The earlier parts actually cover really important aspects of what project management is, what you need to think about and consider, how to get all your information in one place with a process called timeline mapping, and also how to create a project management tracker. So go ahead and jump back to those videos first, and we'll see you in step 4 when you're able to take a look at those. And we'll go ahead and jump straight into the final part of project management for beginners, which is project management implementation. So you've done so much hard work. You've almost made it to the end of the course. Congratulations. We just have one last part to discuss. Once your tracker has been created, now we begin the actual work of keeping the tracker updated and ensuring that your project is able to move along smoothly. So there's quite a few things that we'll actually want to consider and think about when you move into this phase of project management. The first one is meeting cadence. And what I mean by that is how often will you meet? And in addition to that, who will be at the meetings? How many different types of meetings do you need? If you have a smaller project, you may only meet weekly or bi-weekly, and it'll be with the whole team because there's just a handful of you. But for some larger projects with multiple work streams, you may need to have multiple meetings a week, and it may have a different group depending on their specialty or skill set that you're going to be meeting with. So this is really, really important as you sit down to determine how many meetings do you need to get onto the calendar, and how many different types of meetings do you need to have and who will be at all of them. If you are interested in learning more, I actually will go in depth about every single one of these topic areas in some of my other videos. So if you're interested, please check those out. This one is just the beginner course, so I'm going to focus on the really large picture fundamentals. The next part is work style. And this is actually really, really important because as a project manager, you will want to know how each person on your team works best. Do they do their best work, in the mornings or in the afternoons? Or, do they like to work in chunks of time where they have uninterrupted time to focus on work and then have other meetings in one area? So as a project manager, you will have the most effective team if you're really able to understand and take time to understand what the work styles of each of the people on your team are. And sometimes it's not possible to meet all of those considerations for a person, but it's still important to take a moment to think about it, maybe ask those questions if you are not sure, and even just letting people on your team know that you are trying to consider it will make the atmosphere so much more collaborative and so much more fun and easy to work in. And next, you really want to think about hours and capacity. And what I mean by this is how many hours does each person have to dedicate to your project? So many of us are spread so thin throughout so many different projects, so you really want to be aware if this person has 5 hours, 10 hours, or maybe 20 hours to dedicate to your project, so you can make sure that you're not extending past those hours for them. And you can also track that if maybe they need more hours, and then you can bring it up to your supervisor, and that can be something that your supervisor deals with. Having an understanding of hours and capacity, and understanding if there are any competing priorities, will make you be able to make sure that the project moves along smoothly, so you are not having people who can't show up to a meeting because they're stretched too thin, or you may not have your project be prioritized if you're not able to get a good handle on hours and capacity. So definitely a really important aspect to consider as you move into the implementation phase. And of course, I've mentioned this several times already in previous areas, but really knowing what potential challenges that you might run into is huge. You should take a moment, if you haven't already during the timeline mapping phase, to identify what risks or challenge might need to be really intentionally managed. And this might be interpersonal, or it might be related to the actual physical deliverables that you need to complete. So take a moment, if you haven't already during that timeline mapping phase, to think about some of those potential challenges. Excuse me, as I struggle a little bit with words today. But yes, very, very important aspect to think about. And finally, you'll want to make sure that you're acknowledging milestones. And I talked about this a little bit in the previous part, but you really want to celebrate what you've achieved as a team and really give credit where it's due. This helps boost morale. This helps make sure that you're working effectively, and really, above all else, it helps push the project forward because people are excited to come into the project. They're excited to have you project managing, and overall, it just makes for a much more pleasant experience. And of course, if you're interested, again, in any of these topic areas, I dive into them much more deeply in my other videos, so please go ahead and check those out. And I did want to take a moment to highlight any additional aspects to consider. I'm not going to lie, you will probably encounter some unexpected bumps and challenges along the way. And this might include, some unforeseen obstacle that shows up. Maybe funding that you had set aside is no longer there, or maybe, someone on your team is resigning or stepping into a new position. There may also be changes to the timeline. Your project may be extended, your project may be shortened. So there are lots of different, challenges that might arise. These are just a couple that I list out here. If you're interested in learning more in depth, please check out my other videos, and I'll make sure that it pops up so that you're able to click it pretty easily. But the last message that I really, really want to leave you with these additional aspects to consider, is to not panic. Remember that the responsibility is not all on you. You may be managing the project, but every single aspect is not on you. That is distributed throughout the whole team that you're helping to project manage for. So lean in on your team for extra support and resources. Make sure to communicate any challenges that you're running into with your supervisor. Do not panic. You will all get through this together. And so just a few final takeaways that I want to leave you to consider as we wrap up our course here. First, that preparation is the key to successful project management. I hope you've seen now, as we walked through this course, how many different times we stopped to think about what might happen, to gather data, to make sure that we have the whole picture before we're moving forward. And second, stay organized, communicate clearly, and try to create a collaborative atmosphere. I know that it's not always possible, and that some projects can be messier than others, but if you can remember this even amidst all of that, it will really, really help you stay grounded and focused in your job. And with that, that brings us to the conclusion of this beginner's course in project management. I want to thank you so much for taking your time to be here. I hope that you know that you have absolutely got this. I am rooting for you. I know that you will be a great project manager in any of these beginner projects that you're going to be taking on. If you're interested in learning more, please go ahead and check out my other videos that I'll be making on, all these different areas of topics that we've mentioned. If you want to learn a little bit more, if you want to see different templates, different styles. So if this course has been useful to you, please, please, please don't forget to give it a like and subscribe so that you can stay up to date on the latest materials and information that I release. And above all else, if you have any questions, please reach out. Please leave a note in the comments. I want to make sure that we are sharing out information that is useful to you and will help you succeed in the workplace. So thank you so much again. Hopefully I'll see you in some of my other videos, and please don't forget to like and subscribe.